Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to episode number 9 of Golf and Politics. And Rob, Cory, what a guest we have today, right? I mean, this is what an honor for us guys from the Ohio Valley to get to interview not just an Ohio Valley legend, but an American hero in many ways.
Absolutely. I'm Coach. I'm from Steubenville, Ohio, and you've been a hero of mine for a long time. So it's really an honor and a pleasure that you're here with us.
Yeah, it really needs no introduction, right? I mean, Coach, you've especially for our audience that loves college football, you're not only in the Hall of Fame, you're a national champion, Presidential Medal of Freedom recipient, amazing broadcaster. I absolutely loved it every time that you owned Mark May. As a West Virginia fan, I loved it, and most importantly, you're just a good man, a man that loved your wife, loved your kids, your grandkids, and you love America, and a member of Augusta National. So let's just get into it. Without further ado, we have Coach Lou Holtz on the program. Thank you, Coach, for joining us. Coach, as Rob mentioned, he grew up in Steubenville. I grew up in Weirton. Cory grew up in Follinsby. We are Ohio Valley boys, and we've all left the Ohio Valley. We're working in politics. I now live in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and Rob and Cory are in the D.C. area working as lobbyists. And tell us what it was like being born in Follinsby, growing up in East Liverpool. What fond memories do you have of growing up in the Ohio Valley, and how did that shape who you were as a football coach?
I can't think of any other place I'd rather be grown up or was more influential in forming my faith and my belief. I was born in Follinsby during the Depression. My father had a third grade education, and we lived there for 7 years. Then the war broke out. My father went into the Navy. He was in the Pacific. And during that time, we moved to East Liverpool, Ohio, to be with my mother's parents while my father was away at war. And we lived there for 5 years. So when they got out of the Navy, he decided not to relocate my sister and myself. But that's how I was raised in East Liverpool, Ohio, and not Follinsby. I still have a lot of friends in Follinsby. It's just a great area. Being East Liverpool Potter, our big rivalry was Steubenville Big Red. And I remember we used to say, everybody flush your toilet, Steubenville needs water. I have great respect for your football coach, Reno. He's a great coach and a great friend and a great person. So I'm delighted to be here to represent the Ohio Valley.
Well, Coach, you won 249 games, and 100 of those games, I believe, at Notre Dame. And I would just love for you to talk about one win in particular, the January 2nd, 1989 Fiesta Bowl, because I was 7 years old, and that was the first major college bowl game I can ever remember watching. The state of West Virginia was absolutely on fire for the Mountaineers that year. And, Major Harris gets hurt, but you win a national championship. Tell us about that game, what it was like to win a national title. What is the preparation like to make it to that level and then prepare for a game of that magnitude?
Well, you don't win a national championship. You wake up one day and you're national champs. Now, in 88, when we won it, we ended up beating 6 teams in the final top 10 poll.
Wow.
And then we beat 3 teams. They were either 1 or number 2. And if they were number 2, it's because we were number 1. So we played a very, very difficult schedule. So when we got to the West Virginia game, it was like any other game. We had beaten Miami of Ohio. We'd beaten Penn State. We'd beaten Southern Cal. The list goes on and on. So it was just, we had to be prepared and play our game. Now, I tell you, West Virginia had a very, very good football team. They had an end named Ronaldo who played the pros for many years, was a great player. But their quarterback was really exceptional. However, I don't think he'd ever played against a team that has as much speed on defense as we did, and we were able to run down Major Harris when he did break the line of scrimmage. So it was a good football game. We won the game. We won it rather decisively, but it wasn't one where you bragged about or anything else. It just, we did what we were supposed to do.
You make a great point about it. Notre Dame. always plays an amazingly tough schedule, in my opinion. People talk about the SEC nowadays, but I mean, if you look at year in and year out, the schools that Notre Dame puts on their calendar, it's pretty impressive, especially during your tenure at Notre Dame.
Well, it's not quite the same. This year we play 3 Mid-American Conference teams, but for example, in '87, we beat 7 conference champions. That's hard to do with 7 conference champions. Penn State from the East and Virginia from the ACC, and I think it was Alabama from the SEC, Southern Cal from the Pac-10, Michigan from the Big Ten. The list goes on and on, but that was just the way it is. When I went to Notre Dame, Father Joey said to me, Coach, we're going to play the most difficult schedule we can find, and we expect to win. And when Penn State joined the Big Ten, they had to close down some of their non-conference games, and we were one of them. They didn't want to play us anymore, so who did we go schedule? We went and scheduled Florida State and Bobby Bowden. We're there at the very top. So that was just the way life was at Notre Dame when I was there. But you know what? It really made great because every week was exciting. Every week you're playing a great football team, and there was no guarantee you're going to win. And the enthusiasm, the excitement on campus was always tremendous.
Well, Coach, as when you became a head coach as a younger man, what other head coaches did you look up to as somebody that you wanted to be more like or that you wanted to emulate?
Well, I never had a desire to be a coach. I had never had a desire to go to college, though. Nobody from our family had ever gone to college, let alone graduate. And the end of my junior year, our high school coach, Wade Watts, came up and visited with my parents and said I should go to college and become a coach. And I had saved my money to buy a '49 Chevrolet. My parents said, no, we're going to use that money to go to college. I didn't want to go to college. I wasn't a very good student. But in those days, if your father paid taxes to the state school had to give you 1 semester to prove whether you could do the work or not. And that's how I got into Kent State on that stipulation. I had 1 semester to prove I could do the work. So I just never had the desire to be a coach. All I wanted was a job to mail, a girl, $5, a car. I never had any of them. And I thought, what more could you want out of life than that? But that's how I ended up in college and, and in coaching. It was just by what other people did. That's a thing I find out as we get older, that our life is changed by the people around us and the decisions other people make as well. So if one for my high school coach and one for my parents, there's no way I would have been in college, let alone graduate. No way I would have went into coaching. So it's just how, if you want to make God laugh, you tell him what your plans are. And there's really a lot of truth in that. And so I've always been very religious, had a strong faith. Went to St. Anthony's grade school there, taught by Sister Mary Baptista in the 1st grade. That was many, many years ago. But I just thought everybody was Catholic. And when I got in high school and had to go to a public school because there wasn't a Catholic high school close, that's when I found out not everybody was Catholic. And that sort of surprised me for a while because all my family was Catholic on both sides, mother's side, father's side, etc. So I was really blessed to be raised in the Ohio Valley with good people, good values. And we had so many people in East Liverpool that took care of the youngsters. They cared about our football program, our basketball program. I'm talking about Bill Hester, and the list goes on and on. These were great people that cared about our team. And it gave you a sense of pride. You just wanted to be a Potter. And we had very, very good football teams in those days. But so did Steubenville. They had Calvin Jones, Eddie Medvedes, and they were very, very good. So we had great games with them. But that was a pleasure be able to participate in that
Hey,
caliber.
Coach, St. Anthony's in Follinsby, I think some of the nuns left some marks on my hand still from misbehaving, so I still got some wounds there.
Well, when you on your shoulder, mine was on my arms. When they used that ruler all over it. But I tell you what, the nuns were amazing. And here's the thing about a nun: they didn't have any other family. They didn't have a job, so to speak. They didn't have to keep house. They didn't have to do house cleaning or even laundry. I don't think, because they wore the same outfit every single day that I knew them. But their life was preparing young people and teaching them. And so I was really blessed to be taught by the Sisters of Notre Dame in St. Aloysius and by, I think it was the Franciscan Sisters it follows me.
Coach, I have a question. We're Rob and Cory, myself, we're all Steelers fans growing up where we did. And Jerome Bettis, one of our favorite players, and you obviously coached him. And this really isn't specifically about Jerome Bettis, just about all of the players you coached. Growing up the way that you did and not desire, you didn't have this dream to be a coach or to be famous or to be a presidential Medal of Freedom recipient or a member of Augusta National and all these things that have happened in your life. When you had a young man come into the University of Notre Dame, how did you use that life experience that you had to show them the great opportunity that they had to succeed at a high level in life?
Well, I was a very poor student. I was in the lower third of my high school graduating class, and if it wasn't for people like me, there could have been no upper half of the class. But the one thing I learned was to keep life basically simple. And somewhere along the line, maybe 40 years ago, I came up with 3 simple rules. And what I tried to teach our players, life's a matter of choices. Wherever we are, good or bad, because of choices we make. Choose to do drugs, drop out of school, join a gang, get tattoos. You choose to have difficulty in life, and don't blame me for the choices you make. Now, how do we get our athletes to make good choices? Well, we had 3 rules. And these are the only 3 rules I ever had for myself, my children, my family, and certainly our football players. Rule number 1 is do what's right. There's never right time to do the wrong thing, never wrong time to do the right thing. You know the difference between right and wrong. Just do the right thing. It's critical to do the right thing, because what is important is that people can trust you. Now, without trust, you cannot have a relationship with a player, with a spouse, or with a child. It all has to be based on trust. And you cannot base anything on trust if we can't trust one another. That's why if we both do what's right, we'll always be able to trust one another. Rule number 2, let's do everything the very best of our ability. What I learned a long time ago, not everybody be All-American. I was 3rd team. Not everybody be All-Conference. Not everybody can be an A student. But everybody can be the best they're capable of being. And so rule number 3 was show people you care. If you build a love and a feeling on a football team, it's unbeatable. And so I learned that from Wade Watts growing up. And, you had to be part of a team. And then I went in the military. And that was a great experience for me. I learned more in the military than I ever learned in the college classroom. And this country would be a lot better off if everybody had to spend a year in the military. I mean that sincerely. I've traveled all over this world speaking to our troops, but I was an officer in the Army because I went through ROTC. And the one thing I learned was your obligation to your fellow man is more important than the obligation to yourself. And when you worry about your fellow soldier more than yourself, that's when you build morale, camaraderie, togetherness, and a fear that you don't want to let one another down. The thing you learn in the military, I can't afford to let a fellow soldier be in harm's way because I didn't do everything I could to the best of my ability. So that's how simple my philosophy is. It's not very complicated.
It's fantastic.
Coach, a lot of these, young men that you coached, age 18 to 22, I mean, they're physical specimens, they're great athletes, but they're still kids and they need mentorship and they need a father figure and they need a coach. Do you worry that in today's system that college coaches aren't going to have the ability to really mold these young men over 4 years because they can kind of just leave whenever they want?
Oh, I definitely do, but I worry about college football in general for the following reasons. Number one, there's the transfer portal is one of the worst things in the world. There's nothing wrong with waiting your time, being patient, waiting until it's your turn, and having the opportunity to prove that you belong there because you worked to prepare for the time when you got there. Now, if I'm not happy, if I'm not successful, I'm going to transfer. And then they start paying athletes. That's completely wrong. As I said, my father had a third grade education. I was born during the Depression. We never had anything, so to speak, but that was just part of life. You learned that. You learned that you can't have everything you want, but you just go ahead and do everything to the very best of your ability. But you're never going to have enough money. But what you learned was you learned to buy what you could afford and not what you wanted. And if you couldn't afford it, you didn't buy it. I never had in college. People say, well, you need a haircut. I don't need a haircut. Coach, go look in the mirror. I don't look in the mirror. I look at my wallet. My wallet told me I don't need a haircut.
Coach, when you would go into a top recruit's home and meet with the recruit and their parents, what was the Lou Holtz pitch as to why they should come to Notre Dame or to South Carolina to play for you?
Well, first of all, I went into their home because of one thing. I wanted to see how much respect they showed for their parents. If they didn't show a lot of respect for their parents, they weren't going to be successful at the University of Notre Dame. But remember this, nobody's going to buy something because it's going to help you. They're only going to buy something if they think it can help them. So when you went into a young man's home, the first thing I could assure them, based on track record, is we have a great graduation rate. And this is a 40-year decision, not four. That for the next 40 years, you're going to choose a school that's going to have an awful lot to do with the contacts you make, the decisions you reach, and things along that line. So we had to show them that we could help them get an education, we could develop them as an athlete, but more importantly as a person, and we would do everything we could to make them the best athlete they could be. But not everybody's going to go to the pros. I know y'all think you are, but that isn't the way it works out. Those of you that are good enough and are willing to work and pay the price will end up in the pros. But let's come here because of the experience you'll have, be part of a winning team, to be able to make a contribution. And it's not about you. It's not about me. It's about us being able to come together for one common goal, and that was in the interest of Notre Dame. One of the first things I did was took the names off the back of the jerseys. And the players said, well, I like my name. Well, you're playing for Notre Dame. You have an ND on your jersey. That's all it really matters. Nothing else is relevant. We're here for Notre Dame and Our Lady on the Dome, and what an opportunity that is to play for it. And I know that there are going to be teams that are going to be so fired up to play against you because you're at Notre Dame. They couldn't come to Notre Dame, but they want to be able to beat Notre Dame. And the only thing I can think of would be more motivating than to be an individual place against Notre Dame is to be a football player that has the opportunity to play for Notre Dame. So when you play for Notre Dame, nobody should be more motivated than you.
Hey, Coach, I had a question. So, not athlete per se, but who was the greatest student? Who was the greatest person you coached? You had an opportunity to coach. You talked about how great of you made all these kids better people, but who was the greatest person that you would say you coached?
Well, there were so many of them. You hate to pinpoint one, but a guy like Pat Eilers that came to Notre Dame transferred from Yale. Now, Notre Dame didn't take transfers, but he went through the legitimate way to transfer, and then he walked on, and he ended up scoring our first touchdown against Miami of Ohio. But every player I coached had a different story, had something of their recruiting or coaching them. Everyone has a story, and they're all great people. I love them. As I told the athletes, you do what I asked you to do for 4 years, I'll do what you asked me to do for 40. Now, thank God the 40 are almost up because there were. I meant it sincerely, and no players ever asked me to do anything for him that I haven't tried my level best to do what I promised that I would do for them.
Incredible. Well, Coach, I want to transition the conversation a little to golf. And one time I read a quote preparing for the show that you said something along the lines of, one advantage Joe Paterno had over me is that he doesn't golf. I think you also said, if I'm hiring an assistant coach, I don't want to see golf clubs in the trunk. But you love the game of golf. How did you come to love the game of golf? And just tell us a little bit how you got started playing the game and what it means to you.
That is true. I grew up in Eastern Ohio and didn't even know where the country club was, let alone what a golf club was like. And then I ended up at NC State and as head coach, and we had great success. We went to 4 straight bowls. All of a sudden, you have these Wolfpack meetings every spring. You go to Charlotte, you go to Greensboro, you go to Greenville, and you would meet with the alums. You'd play golf in the afternoon, then have dinner and speak that night at the banquet. So I never played golf, but I figured, well, I better start because that's what everybody did. And then because we had good success, I started playing golf. And I really fell in love with it, but I'm wasn't a good golfer, although I did win the member at Augusta in 2005. You go up there on the second floor, and you'll see my name's on the wall. And they can throw me out. I've been a member for 26 years, but I've always can say, hey, I was club champion at Augusta, which was a great accomplishment for me. But golf is such a great game. And I'm at NC State, and a guy calls me. He used to do the golf commentating on TV when it was black and white. And he asked me to come down and play Pinehurst number 2. It wasn't very far from Raleigh. So I drove down. I'm playing with him. I'm not playing well. And we're on the 7th hole, and I thought I hit a decent shot, got a bad break, and kicked over the green and down into the rough. And I'm bitching and moaning. And he said to me, Coach, I played with all the great golfers. Every week I watch them. I played 7 holes with you. He said, I want to tell you something about your golf game. He said, you aren't good enough to get mad. He said, you're bad golf. I mean, you understand that? You'll accept the game. And I can't begin to tell you how many times I said, boy, I wish I was good enough to get mad. If I was good enough to get mad, I'd really throw this club. But I haven't really lost my temper much since then, except I threw a club in the water one time, a putter.
Tell us a little. I want to hear about that story because I think that putter ended up in an auction. Is that correct?
Well, what happened was, I don't remember exactly how it came about, but it was a big putt. And it wasn't that difficult a putt, but I missed it. We lost the match, and I threw the club right in the pond, right to the green. It was on the 17th green. And lo and behold, unbeknownst to me, somebody goes back in, gets on a diving suit, goes down, finds my putter, because there weren't many of them at the bottom of that lake. And they ended up at an auction and brought in an awful lot of money. But it's just crazy. We get on the golf course, we're in our own world. Everything else is irrelevant. That was the thing about golf that my wife didn't play, but she allowed me to play because she knew that was a great recovery for me from all the pressures of golf. As I would tell her, honey, the amount of time I spent on the golf course, God does not count that. That's my lot of time on this earth. He's going to let me live longer because I am not depriving you of my companionship. But golf is, I've played all the greatest golf courses in the world. I mean, I've traveled to England, I've traveled to Ireland, uh, all the golf courses from the East Coast to the West Coast. It's just a great experience. But the friendship that you make on the golf course is second to none. I mean, there's a real legitimate bond between people who are competing on a golf course.
Absolutely. And I'd love for you just to tell us, I mean, obviously, we're dying to know, how did you become a member of Augusta National? And then also, what is the greatest aspect of being a member of Augusta National?
Well, let me answer the second one first. The greatest thing about being a member is the pleasure you give guests. I've taken hundreds of guests to Augusta over my 25 years, and every time it's been a lifetime experience for them. And golf's not a game to be perfected, it's a game to be enjoyed. But the experience at Augusta is second to none. As I tell the people, when you come down Magnolia Lane, remember this. The only people that ever travel down Magnolia Lane are those that are going to play the golf course. If you're not going to play the golf course, you're going to come in a different way. If you're going to watch a golf tournament, you're going to come in a different gate. When you come down Magnolia Lane, you know you're going to be able to play. And it's not just playing the course is so special. It's everything about it. It's a dinner. It's a camaraderie. It's the housing is just absolutely beautiful. The food's tremendous. So I can honestly say that the greatest thrills I've had about being a member of Augusta was taking people there to enjoy it. And then nothing greater than taking a father and a son to Augusta to play for their first time.
Wow. Fantastic.
How did I become a member? I hadn't figured that out yet. I guess it was in the 80s. I'm at Arkansas. We had pretty good success. And I replaced a guy named Frank Broyles, who was a member of Augusta and a friend of Jack Stevens. And I asked Jack if I would ever become a member. He said, no, you're too high profile. No, that won't ever happen. So I bought a second home in Orlando. If I'd known I was going to become a member, I would have never bought the home. But we bought a home in Orlando and have made our home there for, 45 years, something like that. But then it was, I'm coaching at South Carolina, and we're at Augusta, and we're sitting at the chairman's table with Jack Stevens. And he was chairman, and there was a guy named Hootie Johnson there who later would become chairman. And Jack said, should we tell him? And Hootie said, yeah. He said, Lou, we're going to make you a member, but you can't say anything for 6 months till you get the invite. So that was the hardest thing. I couldn't tell my wife or anybody else. But once I became a member, I got to tell you, I've won the Presidential Medal of Freedom, which was a great honor. I'm a member of so many great organizations. I think that one organization is very difficult to belong. I'm a member there. But nothing gives you greater pleasure or more difficult to get than to become a member of Augusta. And they have a member there every spring. And I'm playing with a guy from Pittsburgh, Ohio. He's president of Pittsburgh National Bank. Jim Rohr is his name. And we're playing him. We're walking down the 17th fairway. And I said to Jim, we aren't going to win. We aren't going to win any money. I said, but you know what? It's a beautiful day. We're playing golf. It's a beautiful course. We're at Augusta, and we aren't guests. That's the best thing about it. We're here. We are. Yeah. And so I look at it that way. It's just a great pleasure to be a part of it. But one thing about it, I wrote an autobiography and never mentioned I was a member of Augusta because they don't want any other publicity except for the tournament. And they have one spokesman, and that's our chairman, who right now, who's a class guy. So he's the spokesman. I'm just speaking from my own, and because I am so old now, that I don't know if they'd throw me out after 26 years. But
what are your favorite things to eat at Augusta when you go there? What is Coach Lou's meal of choice?
the filet is absolutely fabulous. They have the fish is very, very good, but I love the filet, and then rice and gravy is always good, and I get Caesar salad with a little extra dressing. Dessert, I don't eat dessert very often, but if I did, I'd get either the apple pie a la mode or the peach cobbler. But they have great food, but more importantly, a great time. And we always make sure they have a camera, and we take a lot of pictures so that they'll have a memory of it. And sometimes when we're playing and I'm losing money, I'll say to them, I hope you get a lot of pictures because yes, ain't coming back. He ain't coming back.
Coach,
Well, Coach go ahead, Cory,
outside of Augusta, what would you say are your favorite golf courses in the U.S.?
There's a course in northern Indiana. What the heck's the name of it? But anyway, I'm a member there. I'll think of it in a minute. I just a great golf course. But also, I play there with good friends. And when you have good friends, that makes it around also. But I tell you what, I loved Whistling Straits, although it's beautiful, but it's very, very hard. I think that Pebble Beach is a tremendous, and I have a special feeling for the course next to Pebble Beach. They used to play the tournament there, but they don't any longer. And the reason is because that was designed by Alistair McKenzie. And Alistair McKenzie, that was Bobby Jones' favorite golf course. He loved number 16. And so when he decided to build a golf course, he had Alistair McKenzie design the course. And so they're just I tell you, go to the hardest course I've ever played is the one in Pittsburgh.
Oakmont.
What, pardon?
Oakmont.
Oakmont. Do you realize that Oakmont is a standby in case they have to move the champions, the U.S. Open course somewhere? They move it to Oakmont. And the only thing they do is they cut the fairways a little bit tighter and they roll the greens. But that is really one hard golf. But it's a great golf course. So many great golf courses, Everyone could be your favorite. I've been fortunate that I've made 7 holes in one.
Wow.
I've been blessed in that respect. So when you make a hole in one, you really remember that golf course particularly, or that hole, or that companion you were with. So just have a good time. I also have been blessed because my 2 sons and my 1 son-in-law love golf. I've taken all them to Augusta. Had great times, great experiences. Those are the things that last a lifetime. That's about relationship with people. And in golf, you can tell a great deal about an individual on a golf course. About his etiquette, about his manners, about his temper, about his consideration for other people. It goes on and on. But golf is a great game.
Well, Coach, I'd like to transition the conversation to politics, since the show is called Golf and Politics. And you have been, in the past, a very effective campaign surrogate for President Trump. And out there on the stump for him and campaign rallies. Tell us a little bit about some of your best memories of being on the campaign trail with President Trump. And also, why did you choose to speak out publicly? So many people in your position stay away from making strong political statements, but you were out there campaigning side by side with President Trump.
I feel you have an obligation in your life to make sure you're leaving this country a little bit better than what you found it. And when you look at the inflation, you look at the crime, you look at the border, you look at all these things going on, and you can't sit by and say, this is okay, this is the right thing to do. It's really not. Now, I happened to be at Augusta when President Trump called me, and he wanted me to come to, I think it was Michigan, to do a campaign event for him. I said, I can't. I got my 2 sons here at Augusta. I'm not going to deprive them. So I said, I'll do a video for you. And I did a video. So later he asked me to come do a campaign. I did. I played golf with him. But let me tell you this. He's a very good golfer, and he doesn't cheat. Not the times I played with him. I mean, he played one ball. He played the back tees with the pros. Hits it a long ways. Has a little different swing, etc. But he loves the game of golf, and is just a good competitor. But more importantly than that, he cares about this country. He really, truly does. He doesn't need all this hassle. He doesn't need to be in jail all the time and in court, which is what they do. And anybody that knows anything about fairness can't look at it and say, oh, that's okay, he deserves it. No, nobody deserves what he's gone through on it. And it bothers me that we have 2 courts of justice. And I think that's not right. It's not the country I grew up with. I'm trying to write a book, although it's very difficult at my age, titled Freedoms I've Lost in the Last 87 Years. And you think about it. We never had a seat belt or anything else like that. But every day, they take more and more of my freedoms away. Now I can't choose which kind of car I want. I can't choose what kind of stove I want. Or what kind of dishwasher I want. It goes on and on. Why? Why can't I have that choice? Nobody's been able to explain to me why. And so I just felt that Trump was an individual that stood up for the American people. Now, do I approve of all his tweets and all the things he said? No. But I do approve of his policies, but more importantly, I approve of his belief in this country and the things he's trying to do. I don't like necessarily the way he does it all the time, but I do think his heart's in the right place. And he's a true American. He loves this country. He truly does.
Well, Coach, I appreciate you sharing your thoughts. And one of the things with our show is that I'm a Republican, and I work on campaigns for Republicans. Cory's a Republican. He lobbies. And Rob's a Democrat, and he lobbies. And we don't agree. I'm voting for Trump. Rob's not. It's okay. We actually had a show a while back where we argued. On these shows, we love to just hear your point of view. But we're hoping that we can disagree and not be disagreeable. Because I know that Rob loves America, and he knows I love America, and we want what's best. We just disagree vehemently on how to get there oftentimes. You've got this podcast that I've loved. I love the Ian Poulter episode was my favorite one. You talked about taking him and his son to Augusta on that episode, and that warmed my heart. That was really incredible. But you say in the podcast that you don't care if you're Republican, Democrat, Independent, that your show's to inspire people to do the right thing. And I hope that our show can be a little bit a part of that. And how do you think golf can play a role in maybe bringing some people together so that we can disagree without hating each other?
The Republican and the Democrats, there was a time where I was a Democrat. Everybody in my family was a Democrat. But that's when you're in high school then. And I remember when Eisenhower won the election, everybody would say the poem, the election's over, the results are known, the will of the people has dearly been shown. We'll get together, show by our deeds. We'll give our right the backing he needs. We'll get together, let differences pass. I'll hug your elephant and you kiss my ass. We thought that was funny then. But you know what? Today, no matter what you want to do, there isn't a Republican or Democrat anymore. It's the animosity they have towards the other people. And it just bothers me. And I ask people, why do you hate Trump so much? They can't tell me. They go, well, he's just not a good person. Well, why? Give me an example. But it used to be the Republicans and the Democrats had a problem. Excuse me, we had a challenge, but we didn't have a problem. The reason we didn't have a problem, we had the same objective. Yes, we thought the objective was to make this country safe and prosperous and give everybody a chance to be successful. And that was our purpose. Now, the objective, we had different ways to do it. The Democrats thought we could do it this way. The way it is now, it's not that way. Now, we have different objectives. We have different purposes. It isn't the same where we believe in the same thing about how do we make this country safe? How do we make it prosperous? How do we give people an opportunity to succeed? How do we make sure everybody has the same fair opportunity? That's not the case now. The case now is just if I don't agree with you, I'm going to do nothing but demean you and ridicule you along the line and try to get you to be quiet. I am not going to be silenced because somebody criticized me. I'm too old for that right now. As I say, I'm 87 and my birthday candles cost more than a cake, but you have to go through on what you believe.
Well, Cory, Rob, do you guys have other questions? Because I'd like to get in a couple final questions and then turn it over to Coach to give us some parting advice. And I want to honor his time. So any of the questions you guys have?
I think we should go to the shotgun 9.
We've asked a few of them already, but go ahead. You want to Coach, these questions, when you go out and play a quick 9 holes, try to get it done fast at the end of a day. These are quick questions. We'd just love to get quick, short answers from you. So, Rob, if you want to kick it off, go ahead.
Okay. Better country to golf in, Ireland or Scotland?
I enjoy Ireland. I love St. Andrews, but I'll tell you why I enjoy Ireland, because the people are friendly. They love you. They have great dinners, great time at night, and they're just happy to see you. So I enjoy Ireland, but St. Andrews is one of my favorite golf courses in the world.
Well, Coach, Rob has invited me on a trip to Ireland, and we're going in September. So I'm excited to hear that that's your favorite country.
Ballybunion, Tralee, Lahinch, so many good courses.
We'll be playing Ballybunion. So,
Coach, if you had advice for Speaker Mike Johnson, what would it be?
Would be just make sure that we're all on the same page. Let's keep in mind what our purpose is. Keep this country safe, make it prosperous, and give people an opportunity to succeed. Make sure everybody has the same opportunity. Understand we're here for the same purpose. It's when we have our own different objectives that we run into our own different problems. And so that's the case. Some people want to be speakers, so they're trying to oust him, and that's not the right thing to do. Let's just make sure we understand why we're here, what's our purpose, why we're in politics, what are we trying to accomplish. It's not hard if you understand what you're trying to accomplish. Associate yourself with people that want to do the same thing. You'll find it's a lot easier to get done.
Coach, a couple of the questions we had for you in this were about NIL and transfer portal, and you already started to talk about it. So I wouldn't mind just maybe asking it from a different angle. With the cat being out of the bag, per se, how does college football move forward? It's such a great product, obviously, in so many ways, and there's so much passion behind it. How does it save itself from being destroyed by the almighty dollar?
I'm not sure we can, and the reason I say that, because we've lost the whole purpose of college athletics. Why do colleges have athletics? Because you learn so much about life in general by being on a team, about unselfishness, about getting knocked down, getting up, subjugating your welfare for welfare of others. Those were all important lessons that you had to learn in athletics. That's why universities had it. Then we started having conferences because colleges had the same objective, academically and athletically, and was pretty well located to one another. Then all of a sudden, we have schools, Southern Cal in the Big Ten. How in the world does that make any sense? You know, think of the time the students are going to spend traveling. The list goes on. Now. As I say, we've gotten away from understanding that the value of athletics is what you learn on the field and in the competition. And when you start worrying more about money, it used to be the coaches chase the money. Then the universities start chasing the money. And now the players are everybody's chasing the money. Forget about the money. Let's get back to why do we have a university and stop worrying about the money.
Coach, I'm not a huge fan of government intervention, but do you believe that government intervention a while ago should have happened when it came to the NIL and conference realignments and this situation we're currently in?
Yes and no. Yes, in this respect, it has gotten out of hand. No, in this respect, we're in this problem because everything goes back to lawyers, and the NCAA got sued, and because they got sued, they had to make compensations in athletics that weren't necessarily in the best interest of the student and the athlete. I think that's the one thing we lose sight of. We worry about everybody except what's in the best interest of the individual or the athlete, and not just financially, because you're never going to have enough money. And these people, talking to Nick Saban and others, what they talk about now is how much money am I going to get? How much money am I going to make? It's not why you're in athletics. Look, if we have to get rid of it all and go back to non-scholarship, I'm all for it. Something to get back to the basic reason why we have athletics, and it's not for the almighty dollar.
Coach, I wanted to ask if you'd ever interacted with the Rooney family in Pittsburgh and what you think about the Pittsburgh Steelers organization.
Yes, I knew the Rooney family. I went up and I spoke to their fundraiser up there a couple of times. The Rooney family is probably has as good a reputation for character and integrity as any family in football. And I have nothing but the utmost respect for the Rooney family. I started following the Pittsburgh Steelers when I was in grade school, and I think that Charlie C. Bass was their quarterback, and I just started following them then. And I remember when Bullet Bill Dudley played, and the list goes on up. But the Steelers have had a great history. I think Mike Tomlin's done an unbelievable job to that many years, and to continue to win. And that's remarkable. So, and then with Jerome Bettis being there, and the bus and winning the national championship, that's all very, very special.
Well, Coach, we want to end with it. We ask all of our participants in the podcast the same exact question. And then after you answer it, if you'd like to give us any parting words of wisdom, we'd love to hear it. But who do you believe will win? Not who do you want to win, but who do you believe will win the presidential election? Who's going to be president come January 2025?
I bet on President Biden because I think our education system is so bad. And then I look at different people on the street and listen to interviews with some of the younger people. They don't really understand what this country's all about. And they never had to serve the country. They never were in the military, things along that line. I think that Biden will win, and don't ask me how or why, but I think one of these days we'll wake up on November the 5th and say, how in the world did this happen? I don't know, but here we are. And it's not in the best interest of this country. That's my personal feeling. And to the people, just make good choices and enjoy life. I'm an old man. As I said, I'm 87. And one thing I've learned, no matter how old you are, you're always going to have problems. You're always going to have difficulty. You're always going to have obstacles. There's always going to be things that don't work out. But above all, make good choices and help other people. I grew up in East Liverpool High School, and there were so many people in that city that cared enough about our programs, about our people, about our students, that they spent time with us. They cared about us. They had Blue and White Non-Pro Club. The list goes on and on. So share time with people and give your time and effort and your attention to them as well. So as I say, make good choices, care about other people, make sure you help somebody today.
Well, Coach, thank you. For our audience, check out Coach Holtz podcast. It's really fantastic. It's the Lou Holtz podcast. You can find it on Apple. My favorite episode was the Ian Poulter episode. It really was heartwarming. And every episode that I've listened to has been fantastic. Coach, thank you for taking the time to talk to us. And just thank you to everybody that listens. You can download our show anywhere you get podcasts. You can also find us on YouTube. On Instagram, we are Golf and Politics. And on X, we are the Golf Politics Pod. But, Coach, thank you again. This was an honor for Rob and Cory and myself. And we hope that a lot of people get enjoyment out of this episode.
Well, thank you for having me. And I mean this sincerely. Anything to do with the Ohio Valley is always number one in my heart, and I'll always be here. So congratulations on the difference you're making in people's lives. God bless you. Go Irish.
All right. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Coach.
Coach.